Hi everybody, and welcome to Cle Elum Moraines. This is a follow-up video to Leavenworth Moraines that we did a few days ago. Down there in the haze is Cle Elum, Washington. And it's hazy because everybody's using their wood stoves these days. Winter is fast approaching, and this is maybe the last sunny day we have for a while here in late October of 2023. So let's look, like we did in the Leavenworth Moraines video, let's look at evidence for multiple glacial advances of the Yakima Valley Glacier and look at glacial till in the moraines here high above Cle Elum. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Okay, well, let's get you situated here first of all. You're looking up the guts of the upper Yakima Valley. And that's the Yakima River itself flowing toward you. Way in the distance is the approach to Snoqualmie Pass. So you're looking northwest right now. And there's Cle Elum, Washington. And in the foreground is State Highway 10, which was the old road from Ellensburg to Cle Elum before the freeway was built. And in the late 1960s, Interstate 90 was built out here on these flats. And you can see some of the freeway traffic of Interstate 90. You're now looking southwest. So the idea today is that we're going to have some similarities but also some differences between the Leavenworth Moraines episode and this one. I'm up here perched high on a public road. It's called Hart Road. And I'm up to the end of the public portion of Hart Road on Lookout Mountain. And you see all these dead trees are from the fire about a decade ago. And this road gets you up here close to the top of Lookout Mountain. And by God, we've got some glacial till. But the till looks different here than in our last episode. Do you remember the Leavenworth Moraines episode? We were looking at big boulders of granite. Here, the big boulders are of basalt, and the smaller rocks in this poorly sorted glacial till are andesite lavas and basalts and plutonic rocks that are a little bit different, quite a bit different than the Mount Stewart batholith. So this is a different batch of glacial till, but the question I have today is, are there similar timing stories with the Yakima Valley Glacier compared to the Icicle Creek Alpine Glacier that's up over the Stewart Range to the north? So it is sufficiently chilly to the point where I think I have a little portable classroom in the back of the old Whitey. Beautiful stones here. I think we're going to do two stops in this video, up here on Lookout Mountain, and then I will continue on Hayward Hill, closer to Ellensburg. All right, so I think the goal at this first stop is just to get you tapped into what we were doing last time. So I'm reminding you that we're looking at not the ice sheets now, but I'm up in the Cascades. And in the Leavenworth Moraine video, we were here. And today in the Cle Elum Moraine video, we're looking at the alpine ice coming down Interstate 90 and burying Cle Elum, Washington. And we're going to see that at times this alpine ice got even closer to Ellensburg, as is portrayed here. The view out here, especially on a crystal clear day, which today is not, but you can see Pio Point to the south of Cle Elum and Cle Elum Ridge. This forested ridge right here is Cle Elum Ridge. And that was totally overridden by the Yakima Valley Glacier multiple times in the past. So this is quite a setting. I guess I'll say one more thing and kind of tease the difference here. Yes, there are moraines we're about to look at in the valley below, but the most stunning glacial features of this valley are these incredible flat benches that are not the valley floor, but used to be the valley floor. So what do these plateaus, essentially, right in the middle of this Yakima, upper Yakima Valley, what do these plateaus tell us? And do these plateaus match from field to field? Hint, they do. Okay, man, it is frigid, baby, frigid. Okay, location 2. Quite a bit lower, out of the wind most of the time, and a classic shot of the glacial deposits between Lookout Mountain and Ellensburg. So I opened this video up there on top of Lookout Mountain, up there in the trees. And we were looking away down to Cle Elum and then up to Snoqualmie Pass. So I've got a chair perch that we will use, and we'll look at a few maps and diagrams that will look semi-familiar to you. But just to confirm that we are still talking about an Ice Age story, this is good exposure of the moraine on this side of the Yakima River. Now, is this the same moraine that we were looking at up on top of Lookout? I'll explain in just a second. But we can see the classic look of till, can't we? A bunch of loose boulders, stones of different sizes, down to sand size composition. And there's no shortage of it here. This is a healthy accumulation. So I hope that you can note that this looks like glacial till. It smells like glacial till. It is glacial till. Poorly sorted loose rocks that make up a distinct ridge. But here the glacial till is basaltic dominantly. I mean, there's a few granites and other light colored stones, but for the most part, this is a basaltic till, indicating that the Yakima Valley Glacier picked up a substantial amount of basalt during its journey out of the Cascades and dumping them here into the foothills of the Cascades. Very different than the Leavenworth area where almost everything was granite. But if someone looks more carefully, they'll see that it's not all basalt. And these are Cascade lithologies. Different kinds of lavas, some metamorphic rocks thrown in. Exotic terrain country, and also the Cascade Volcanic Arc. Okay, we've established that we've got the till here, but what we really want to do is to make some connections regionally, and I think these diagrams with our color scheme, I think there's a chance it's really going to work for you. So I am featuring the work of Stephen Porter, University of Washington, more than 50 years ago. And I've done a little coloring since I saw you last. And to make the connection between our video up by Leavenworth that was looking at multiple generations of Icicle Glacier coming out of the Icicle Creek Canyon and covering the Bavarian town of Leavenworth. That's what we were looking at in the last video. There's something called the Ingalls Glacier that was coming down Ingalls Creek, which is on the south side of the Stewart Range. Similar story where that ice is dumping into Peshastin Creek, US 97. But today we are south of Leavenworth and we are looking at the area of Cle Elum, Washington, and Ellensburg's down over here. So what do you notice that's the same? The color scheme is the same, and the main story of oldest ice being biggest and youngest ice being smallest holds true here in the Yakima Valley, the Yakima River Valley, as well as the Peshastin and Icicle Creek drainages. So somehow this scenery here, which is quite attractive, wouldn't you say? Somehow that scenery jibes with this. And I did this more than 20 years ago because I was having a hard time taking these little scraps of glacial deposits, both till and outwash, and making a regional picture. So long before YouTube and making video programs, I had these tendencies to take these little postage stamps and plug them into a bigger story. Okay, there's our color scheme. We know it by now. If you have no idea what we're talking about, please watch the Leavenworth Moraines video from a few days ago and then come back to this one. It'll make a little bit more sense. Red is youngest, orange is next youngest, blue is older yet, and purple is older even yet. Terrible grammar there. So we started our video today up on Lookout Mountain. Here's Lookout Mountain. And the tippy top of Lookout Mountain kept its neck up above all of these ice advances. So there's a little white window in here because that's a Nunatak. That's a place that kept it. That's bedrock. Columbia River basalt bedrock, by the way. German chocolate cake bedrock that never got covered by ice. But it was close. It was close to be totally overridden. Cle Elum Ridge was totally overridden. But this oldest ice advanced, the Lookout Mountain Ranch Till, damn near came close to overriding Lookout Mountain, but didn't quite do it. So we opened the video right up there with the purple and the blue. I think we were looking at Blue Till at the very close to the top of Lookout. And now we are down here at the moraine. So that's Thorpe Prairie, which I'm about to try to show you graphically. Okay, the wind's picking up at precisely the wrong time. Keep it together, boy. Look at this quickly. I am working regionally. We'll see if it ends up being successful. But we're still in the Cascades of Washington. And we're now looking at Domrey, Bullfrog, Kittitas, and at least today I'm kicking Lookout Mountain up into this purple, although it gets a little messy. Ultimately, I'm going to try to wonder specifically about the channeled scablands, and do we have much signature of these older ice advances, older than the red Wisconsin story. Okay, well, let's try to tackle this. As I show you this, that's lit beautifully this afternoon, I hope that you can see that there are, well, what's your eye drawn to? Your eye's drawn to these flat fields, I presume, and the agreement of the elevation of these flat fields. And the flat fields that are in the middle of the frame right now are not at the top. Maybe you can notice that that matches this, and these are things called terraces, glacial terraces. But those two terraces do not match the elevation of that terrace up there at the level of the wind turbines. And that terrace is not the same level as a terrace that's up there at the next wind turbines. So let's just try it since I've got this shot. At the highest level is a broad terrace that's quite regionally extensive. and it merges with the top, or close to the top, of Lookout Mountain. So we have the summit of Lookout Mountain, which was never overrun by ice, but close. And we have this blonde terrace at the skyline that stretches for more than 10 miles, 20, maybe 30 miles at that high level. And then if we jump down, I hope that you can see that this next lower terrace works with a couple terraces in the distance, in other words, matches. Then I hope you can see the most prominent terraces are these blonde guys right above that moving car. And then there's even a fourth and lowest terrace down there at the level of the Yakima River. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought this was a glacial moraine story. I thought that the evidence, or the title of this video is Cle Elum Moraines. First of all, Cle Elum's not in the frame. Second of all, you're calling them terraces. Are you really calling them terraces or moraines? Here's the payoff. If you have an alpine glacier anywhere in the world, you typically develop a terminal moraine, or let's just say moraine. You develop a moraine at the margin of the ice, and flow within the alpine glacier is dropping poorly sorted rocks to make the moraine. But a key concept is that stretching out is a terrace. It's made out of river stones. And without really knowing the details of glaciers, you would just assume that those cobbles, those river rocks, are a river story and not a glacier story. And they are a river story in the sense that a bunch of fast-moving water was bringing these polished Easter eggs and laying them out in this beautiful, what appears to be a flat landform. But if you look carefully at any terrace, any glacial terrace, if you look very carefully at it, there's just a tiny bit of a slope. The thing is not perfectly flat. It's gradually sloping away from the ice front. And so these are like sheets of plywood. These glacial terraces, these outwash. Outwash just simply means a bunch of running water coming out from the front of a glacier. Whether it's subglacial flow or water coming off the front of the ice, or both, or outburst lake, I don't care. I don't care about the mechanics. I just care that there's a bunch of rushing water laying down river rock on this sheet of plywood that's damn near flat and stretching all the way to the nearest town, basically. The ice is gone, but you can, even though the ice goes away, you're left with a moraine and an outwash terrace that is graded to the summit of that moraine. In other words, the moraine and the terrace level match. And that's the work that's been done. Let's cut to the payoff. You know the color scheme by now. And approximate thousands of years ago. These are the same colors, these are the same stages we had in Leavenworth. But notice now we are sketching terraces and not moraines. Because in this valley at least, the amount of outwash material far outweighs the amount of moraine material. Or looking down from heaven, there's way more area that's mapped as outwash as opposed to moraine. And this key hand-drawn sketch by Robert Bentley, who mentored me when I first moved to town in 1992, rest in peace, Bob, shows this amazing relationship, which I didn't understand for so many years. I couldn't quite see it. So if I cut to it again, our most beautiful terraces that are blondish green are Lakedale. So lowest terrace, higher terraces that match, higher terrace yet with surfaces that match, and then the highest terrace of all up there. So to me, the stunner is, number one, that the oldest stuff is the highest and the youngest stuff is the lowest. I guess that's not a stunner. We just saw that with the moraines at Leavenworth. But these are these outwash terraces beyond the moraines. And look at how much purple outwash had to be scooped out of here. In other words, are you reading this like I am? This used to be the valley floor at the oldest, possibly MIS 8 time. You fill the entire valley up to that level with marbles. And then isn't the most dramatic part of it getting rid of almost all of the marbles? In other words, scooping them out to make an open valley? And then when you bring in the next ice, it's lower, and you fill the valley with marbles to a lower top. Lower top, lower top, lower top. Well, I don't know if that works for you. Maybe this one does. Also, Stephen Porter, also using our colors. And right now, I'm way the hell out here, out in front of where the ice was. We started our video on top of Lookout Mountain. So it's unclear to me if the till that we started the video with is purple or blue. I think it's probably blue. I don't think there's that much purple till up at the top. Purple, you know what I mean, purple. I've been busy with the pencils. I think I had at least one more key purple one. Yeah. So here's my best way to summarize the last video, Leavenworth Moraines, and this video, Cle Elum Moraines. Both have 4 distinctly different glacial episodes with some sub-advances, some smaller drama within those 4. But even though I'm counting this as chapters, first chapter, then second chapter, then third chapter, then fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know that I'm saying that the youngest advance, chapter 4, is MIS 2. Stephen Porter, Richard Waite, Stephen Porter. Richard Waite, Stephen Porter. And you're like, boy, those numbers keep changing. Well, sure, our dating techniques continue to evolve. Here's Bob Bentley drawing for us, and me using the colored pencils. And the most dramatic terraces are orange. They're stage 4. At this point, it's a Buster Keaton movie. Back to Leavenworth. So how come there's so many of these terraces in this valley and there aren't many terraces at all in the Wenatchee Valley? In other words, downstream from Leavenworth. Well, if you read Richard Waite in the 1970s, he says there's not many terraces in the Wenatchee River Valley downstream of Leavenworth because next door there were a bunch of Ice Age floods coming down the Columbia, and they messed up the signature of everything. I wonder, aren't there a bunch of terraces levels and a bunch of apple orchards going Leavenworth, Peshastin, Kashmir, and then Wenatchee? I don't know. But to me, a couple of the main messages are, there's a lot of orange here. There's a lot of stage 4 till between Cle Elum and Easton primarily. So Suncadia Resort is right in here amongst these stage 4 moraines. The 3 famous reservoirs, Cle Elum Lake, Cochise Lake, Ketchelis Lake, those are not totally man-made. There are moraines damming those lakes. They've been enlarged as reservoirs by some earthen dams, but those signatures are real, and that's from the MIS2 story. Well, it's almost November, and I think the weather's coming in, and it's going to be here for a while, and the snow's going to be here. So I think this is likely the last field video of the year. Does that mean we're done with videos? Of course not. We're about to start the Ice Age Floods A to Z from my office at the campus of Central Washington University. But for the field videos, I've been doing things in the field, thinking about the Ice Age floods and glacial evidence pretty much since April 1st. And hope that you've enjoyed these field videos, taking a look at some of these deposits as we continue to learn together. The next video that I'll post here will announce the calendar of the A to Z series. Hope you can join us for those. Thanks everybody, I love you, and goodbye from Ellensburg, Washington, USA.
Has always been privileged, but in the process of getting to this building, so at some point, the valley is like a gently sloping valley down, and then we up inside it.
No, you can see the cross section of columns. Yeah. So they really haven't lost maybe a whole lot of shape, but they certainly knocked the corners off.